Once the IAEA came out with its pronouncement over a week ago
Yeah.
that Iran had done sustained cheating, had done sustained running of centrifuges in Fordo, especially. I think they're up to 11 cascades of enriched material now, which is quite a bit. And once the IAEA said that, and as you know, the IAEA had been reluctant to publicly pronounce Iran as cheating,
Yeah.
I think it was game over.
Now, American B-2 stealth bombers left the US and appeared to be heading toward Diego Garcia, a strategic military base in the Indian Ocean, on Saturday. President Trump has said that he'll mull over whether to get involved in targeting Iran. Well, joining us now is Debra Cagan, former US government official in State Department and Department of Defense, and currently senior advisor on security issues at the Atlantic Council. Debra, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Deborah, the president has said he's going to take 2 weeks to think about what he is going to do. Famously, he says, no one knows what I'm about to do. How much resistance is he getting within the Republican Party in getting involved with Iran?
I think it depends on who you talk to. I think that there is a wealth of support to do something with Iran in the U.S. Senate. There are isolationists there, make no mistake, but I think the vast majority who have been fairly quiet do support doing something. And I think that in the MAGA world, as we like to say, there are people who are isolationist, and I think there is this perfect horseshoe of where the far left meets the far right on isolationism, and I think we're seeing a lot of that. But in between that space, there's a lot of agreement that you cannot let Iran continue to go on as if nothing has changed.
Is it isolationism, Deborah, or is it what Donald Trump himself used to say, which is we don't have any business being involved in conflicts and wars around the world? He's famously been known for wanting to bring troops back, reducing American interference globally. And a lot of his MAGA supporters, as you were mentioning, are saying, well, hang on, what's happened to that? Why on earth would we get involved with Iran when we have no business being there?
I think that those of you in the UK understand this very well, which is that when you're a superpower, even at times in this administration, a very reluctant superpower, that you have obligations, because I'd like to say the enemy gets a vote. And you don't get to pick your war. Certainly the United States, when it was bombed at Pearl Harbor, didn't get a choice. They had to go to war. And I think similarly now, the Iranians and their proxies have attacked U.S. and allied forces globally. This has occurred not just in the Gulf of Aden, but if you look at Latin America, what Hezbollah has done there over the years, what Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis have done across the Gulf region and across the Middle East more generally, this is something that even if you're reluctant, they get a vote and you are the enemy. There may be many people in the isolationist anti-war world, both on the left and right, who say, well, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do this, but often you don't have a choice and you have to respond.
Has some of this been brought upon by the president's own actions? He pulled out of the previous agreement that was in place by Barack Obama. Some have even mentioned Donald Trump's desire to get some sort of Nobel Peace Prize, of course, again, like Barack Obama. So is any of this playing in his mind, do you think, Deborah, when it comes to making this decision?
Well, you're asking me to figure out what's going on in
I'm sorry.
And I'm not going to venture or hazard a guess on that one. But what I will say is this. Once the IAEA came out with its pronouncement over a week ago that Iran had done sustained cheating, had done sustained running of centrifuges in Fordo especially, I think they're up to 11 cascades of enriched material now, which is quite a bit. And once the IAEA said that, and as you know, the IAEA had been reluctant to publicly pronounce Iran as cheating, I think it was game over. For a UN agency to come out and say that was a really significant step, and one that you can no longer just say, oh, this is just Israel or Donald Trump overreacting. Personally, I'm biased. I never supported the JCPOA agreement because I don't think it had the type of information and monitoring that would be essential for any agreement that the United States would have signed with Russia or China in earlier days. Not even minor sort of ability to see what was going on in Iran. And we were all supposed to trust Russia as the guarantor of that agreement to tell us if it was accurate. And I don't know about you, but there's not very many days when I wake up and say, I trust Vladimir Putin.
So other than using the B-2 bombers to really disable and bring an end to the nuclear program in Iran, does the president have any other options?
Well, I think that's the option he has. I think the Israelis and others still have, shall we say, sabotage and other covert ways of looking at this, but that would probably cost way more lives. I will say that I truly believe, and I think most military officials across a broad spectrum, not just in the United States, believe that if Fordo is knocked out, the world will be a safer place.
This is the well-known enrichment, the center, if you like, of the nuclear program in Iran.
Right. This is the place where there's 11 cascades running full time, and the problem is, it's probably ridiculous for Iran to talk about a nuclear civilian program when it was running heavy water at Iraq, which was hit the other day, and which you don't need for anything but a weapon. And so it's at this point 11 cascades at the enrichment level that they're at could not be used in a commercial nuclear reactor. So all of this has been this great canard that people have bought into, that's saying, oh, no, it's just for the civilian program, we should leave them alone. It's not for the civilian program. You just don't need that kind of enrichment, those many cascades for a civilian program.
And in your view, Deborah, there is no negotiating out of this? Because some people will say, look, the Iranians want to talk. In fact, they wanted to send a delegation to the White House. They want to sit down. They want to talk. From what I take it from what you've been saying so far, you don't think that is going to be what solves this conflict?
No, unless I think this is an existential piece for the mullahs at this point, for the Ayatollah and the mullahs at this point, which is that if we lose this, we'll probably lose power. And so I think talking is just going to buy them time, but it's not going to move the needle at all for them. And I think that at some point, Chancellor Merz said it best the other day at the G7 when he said Israel was doing the dirty work for the rest of the West. I'm paraphrasing here.
Yeah.
But I really do think that's the issue here. This is a threat, not just to Israel, but the fact that Iran has been allowed to go this long without being unchecked has taken weapons and computer chips and everything for China in exchange for cheap oil and gas and the like. If that goes away, then Iranians helping Russia in Ukraine goes away. Iran using proxies all over the world to kill and assassinate people, like some of the attempted assassinations that occurred in the United States against Iranian dissidents. I'm thinking of Masa Ahmadinejad, a great journalist. And I think that goes away. And that is what they don't want to lose. So no, I think that the EU states people can talk to Iran all they want, but all it is going to be a lot of whining on the part of Iran and saving time so they can try to get more done and reinstitute their air defense systems, which have been seriously degraded.
Okay. Deborah, thank you for giving us your time. Debra Cagan there, former US government official in the State Department and Department of Defense, and currently senior advisor on security issues at the Atlantic Council.